My aunt has been disowned by the family. Well, she's passed away recently, and now my family wants to act like they were always close to her, but I think the only reason that they want to act like that now is simply because they know that she was very wealthy, so they're trying to get their nasty little fingers on a little bit of this inheritance. Let me tell you what's going to happen, though.
Hello, everyone. My name's Dahlia. I grew up in a very religious white family. You know, the types that stress over their family name and reputation instead of each other. My family's always cared more about what others would say instead of their own family happiness. The black sheep of my family was Aunt Alana. She was the wild child. Nothing or no one could stop her from being a free spirit. I've heard enough stories from my grandmother about her recklessness, although she meant them as a tale of caution. But I took them as a rebel story. Aunt Alana was my role model, and not a lot of people in my family knew this. That's because she was disowned in the late 80s, and in her early 20s she went to college and fell in love with a black man. Back in those days, people didn't bother hiding their disdain towards black people like they do now, and my family did not hide their hatred for Alana's decision to marry Carl. My grandparents forbade her to touch, let alone marry a black man. However, it did not stop Aunt Alana from going after what she wanted. Her family knew that chiding her would not work. It never had, so they threatened her. My grandfather told her that they would disown her if she ever went to meet Carl again. See, Carl, he was not from a well-off family. He was poor, living in a beat-up one-bedroom apartment, but Alana was ready to make sacrifices, and so was Carl. So, to everybody's surprise, Alana eloped with Carl. Well, this caused a huge fight inside the family, with my Uncle George and Charles already down to throw hands. Well, my father stayed quiet throughout it. He didn't want to become a target. However, after Alana had been disowned by her parents and was living with Carl as a married couple, they soon ran into financial issues. My father was the youngest of the brothers. Even though he was older than Alana, he stepped up to help out, but only in secrecy. My aunt had things brewing for her too, and she promised to return the money as soon as possible. My aunt soon started to make really good money, good enough money, and so did Carl. My aunt was a risk taker, and she began a business, and it became pretty large. My aunt loves telling me this story of how she went back to return the money to my father, but he refused to take it, saying that it was a wedding gift from the family to her and Carl. And my other uncles had said that they would not attend my father's wedding if he invited Alana, so he had not even thought he truly wished to. I grew up around Aunt Alana a lot, even though the rest of the family didn't know of it. No one even invited her to the family events ever, and I wasn't allowed to tell anyone about our involvement with her. I now know that my dad was scared of how the rest of the family would react. However, Alana was over their bullcrap and did not care. Aunt Alana liked being the center of attention and taught me that as long as I did not let the negatives define me, basking in the attention usually made people salty. Her brothers and their wives disliked how Alana thrived, even in the negative attention she received from them, never letting them define her or control anything about her. She and Uncle Carl never had children. I never asked if they ever wanted any or weren't able to have them, but they both treated me as their own. Anyways, we lived quite close to each other, and we were always going to one another's house, away from the rest of the family's eyes, of course. Aunt Alana was the one who got me a job at her company. She thought that I was capable and would be a great addition to the team, and I don't know, I felt very lucky and grateful for that. I've been working at her company for many years now, and initially I had a low post. However, as time went on, she promoted me to higher post. My close family did not really know that I worked for her. My true training began 2 years ago after she was diagnosed with cancer. She wanted me to take over after she was gone, and I was reluctant in the beginning, but I saw her health deteriorate and wished to take away her burden so she could rest. I gradually started to take over her work, even though she was the owner of the company, and by the last few months I have taken all her load, forcing her to stay at home. 3 days ago, I got the dreaded call. Aunt Alana's been in a lot of pain, and finally she passed away. I was devastated. I still am. I feel like a vital organ in my body was removed without my consent, and last night I was coming back from the funeral. I saw the knife set that she'd given me as a present, and I just started bawling. Everything reminds me of her. She occupied such an important position in my life, and I don't know how to act. It was, that she's no longer here. Anyways, the funeral was very suspicious affair. When I showed up, I was shocked to see my uncle and their families there. I had thought that they would not show up at all, given their history, and my aunt, who had never uttered even a single positive word for my aunt, well, they were crying like they were oh so close. I didn't understand. My uncle gave a speech as well, reminiscing about the childhood days, and I suspect they went for that as they had almost no good memories with her after she ran away with my Uncle Carl. No, Uncle Carl, on the other hand, was also not having it. I overheard him and my father discussing this abnormal behavior. Uncle Carl revealed that he was unsure if he should have even invited them because he had just assumed that they wouldn't show up anyways. Oh, but they showed. They showed up with flowers and everything. They even hugged him and, I don't know, even though they thought touching a black person would taint them somehow. My dad thought that they were doing it just to keep a clean reputation, but I disagreed. I think they were here just to see what Alana left after her death. Anyways, I went up to give a speech myself. I could tell that my close family was shocked to hear about my antidotes. Thinking that I'd rarely met her, I didn't alter my speech at all when I realized that they were there, not caring that they knew that my father wasn't in on their racist behavior. I was crying by the time that I was done, and so were many of the people present there. By the time the casket was to be lowered, I was furious at my uncle's presence. They acted as if they had not been racist throughout Alana's whole life. I wanted them gone, and nowhere near my aunt's dead body. I didn't want my last few moments with Aunt Alana to be spent with my uncle's presence right there over my head. When I saw them yawning and looking at their watches in boredom, I have had enough. I told them to leave. I told them that they're not invited at this private moment as they've never been supportive of their sister, and Uncle George claimed that I did not know anything about their siblings at all, and I should shut up because I did not have any siblings of my own. That's when I loudly asked if that was why they never even bothered checking up on her while she was sick. My dad interfered and told me to rein in my anger. He asked them to leave, and I was right, they were not immediate family anymore. It took my father a few tries to get them out of there. He had to threaten them to call the cops if they did not leave. But can you believe them? I was so mad that I wished to smash their faces in the ground and rub the mud in their slimy faces. I hate them. I know Aunt Alana would have told me to calm down and not let them bring me down, but I am not like her. She was better than me because if someone had treated me the way my uncles treated her, I would be behind bars for murder. My parents think that I'm just processing stuff too much, and that's why I'm this angry. And you know what? Maybe they're right. I do feel angry. She was so young, and I am everything right now. Well, I feel angry like I said, but I'm also very mad at my uncle's behavior. Maybe my parents are right. Maybe I would not have begun a fight with them if it wasn't for Aunt Alana's funeral. I just don't know what to do, guys. Like, I know what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to go ahead and make her aunt's legacy into an ever more successful company. But at the same time, it's not the same, and I feel so directionless and angry. Update number 1. Hey guys, it's Dahlia again. It's been a few days since I last posted. Today, Aunt Elena's will was supposed to be read, and it proved my previous theory of my uncles being selfish people, who only cared for Alana's money and not their sister. Getting out of the bed was pretty hard, I'm not gonna lie. Well, I didn't want to go because the will was to be read in her home, and I was scared of all the memories that, the house would remind me of. But my Uncle Carl had called me that morning. He told me I could use some help to set up the house with food and drinks, and I could not have possibly said no. We spent hours cleaning up the living area and setting out bottles of wine for the guest, and I felt much better in his presence as we reminisced about my aunt, how she loved entertaining people, and how she was much better at it than either of us ever could be. I felt very grounded in his presence. I lost my aunt, but he had lost his life partner. Watching him work despite that really made me feel like I could too. When the guests began to arrive, my uncle was the first to greet them. His voice changed at one point, and when I looked over, I understood why. Uncle George and Uncle Charles were there with their wives and children, and in that moment I knew exactly why they were there. Carl was completely civil with them, and I invited them in. I took deep breaths, so I was not going to get angry again. I didn't want to create a scene, not today, and thankfully my parents got there soon with the lawyer and the reading began, and Aunt Alana was quite close to Uncle Carl's siblings, and their kids had left them all some money and belongings. They were quite emotional as they were actually mourning her loss, and these things only reminded them of her. The tone of the room changed when my name was called. The lawyer announced that I got half of her inheritance in the form of her company, which I've been expecting. She also left me, how do I say this? A lot of money, which really shocked me, to be honest with you guys. I was in shock when Uncle George asked if that was it. The lawyer said it was, and that's when Uncle George's face turned red in anger. But he sat back down, and his wife asked if anyone else had anything in Alana's family. The lawyer looked over the will one more time and told her that I was the only living kin that she mentioned. When the lawyer was gone, that's when Uncle George and Uncle Charles approached my dad in secret. I overheard them fighting in a hushed whisper. Uncle Charles claimed that they and my dad were here in the house for the same reason, but my father had beaten them by playing the long game. My dad was insulted by that and claimed that he actually cared for Alana, and so did I. My uncles just laughed like it was a joke and clapped him on his back, saying how they were impressed by his games, but promised that my father would regret not letting them in on this secret. My father was horrified and told them that he had helped them financially even before Alana had begun her own company. He didn't do it for the money. He cared for her. But my uncles had had enough and they left. Can you believe them? They threatened my father. How greedy do you actually have to be? I'm so upset. Update number 2. Hey, this is Dahlia again. It's been a month since my aunt passed, and I have been doing much better. I really found solace in my work. Thinking about working really did make it easier to stop thinking about her all the time. Don't worry, I'm not overworking myself or anything. Anyways, this evening was my cousin's birthday party, and we were invited. We went to Uncle Charles's house with presents, and everything was going just fine, until my aunts began discussing my inheritance. They asked me what I would do with so much money, and I was very uncomfortable and told them that I didn't know yet. That's when my uncles joined in the conversation. They claimed that it would be in everyone's best interest if I shared it all with my cousins. Well, I was uncomfortable, but not an idiot, so I told them that I would decide what I wanted to do with my inheritance on my own. If I wished to throw the money in the river, it would be my decision, not theirs, so it would be better if they stopped giving me unwanted suggestions. I was angry to them, thinking that I owed them anything, or my aunt owed them something. They tried to ruin her spirit again and again and again, and she still came out on top. And now they're trying to get their greedy hands on her money after she's dead. They are completely shameless. Then they all began to talk about how Alana was always bitter and selfish. It wasn't a wonder that she wanted to take revenge, even though she was the one who ruined their family's reputation by running away with a black man. They even threw slurs in the conversation that I don't even feel comfortable repeating. I was shocked and speechless at their blatant disrespect towards their dead sister. When I tried to take my aunt's side, Uncle Charles asked me why I even got so much in the will anyways. He wondered out loud if I had a black boyfriend that they weren't aware of, as if it's their business. I was horrified at their conclusion, and my partners were none of their business, and before I could tell them that, my grandfather overheard his comment. You see, my grandfather is very old man. He roared that I better not muddy the family name like Alana did. I can't take it anymore, the disrespect, the demands, the greed. I felt so crowded and breathless that I rushed away, not wishing to be there between these people. My grandfather is a strict and bitter man who doesn't like anyone, so I wasn't offended by him. But I did feel like they had all planned on everything and were trying to suffocate me with their demands in there. Well, I can already feel like this visit really undid the progress I made. I'm back to being angry, and I feel this anger in my chest, this unfairness. I feel breathless even typing this. I mean, how dare they? Update number 3. Hey guys, it's Dahlia again. It's been a week since my cousin's birthday, and my family's back to their racist bullcrap. At the party, they had cornered me. But now they're also cornering my parents, and my mother is a fragile woman with a lot of anxiety, and it's really affecting her mental health. That's when my father approached me to talk. He didn't want to do this just like I didn't, but he felt that he needed to. He explained the situation at hand, and he said that after I left the party, his brothers began pressuring him and my mom. They threatened that they would tell his father that he helped them back in the day when he had firmly disowned Alana. Grandfather was unaware of this, you see, mainly because of how old he was, but also because when it came to anything even remotely related to Aunt Alana, he lost his temper. My dad did not want the fact to be revealed to him, not wishing for his health to deteriorate more than it already had. George revealed that they would all keep their mouths shut if he convinced me equally to divide my inheritance. Well, when my father claimed that it was my inheritance and I only could decide what to do with it, they threatened to disown him just like they did Alana. They promised that they would kick us out if he could not convince me to be a little more generous. Even their wives talked to my mother, claiming that they had done wrong by going against the family. They tried gaslighting her, guilt-tripping her. They claimed that my family is everything, and she and her husband had gone against their family traditions. So, to undo the damage, the least they could do was divide their inheritance equally between them. Even Uncle Carl's family had been asking him about it. They were also wondering if it was a good decision to give half of her inheritance to one woman alone. I was not going to give 4/5 part of my inheritance to my cousin, who never even talked to my aunt decently one day in their life. They don't deserve a penny. And my dad agreed, but he thinks that it's the only way of getting them off our back. Well, I don't think it's true. I asked my father why he even cared for his family and why it would be a bad thing if they disowned him. I think I disappointed my father with that, though. He's claiming family is important no matter what, even when the family's toxic. Well, I don't agree with him. I told him that I would rather stand on my own than with people who hurt someone very dear to me, just for no reason. I think I made him think, and he told me that he would discuss everything with my mom. I don't care if he wants to discuss it or not. I have a plan. It's the 21st century. People are no longer racist like they used to be back in the day. It's my family who has not arrived in the new century. It's on them. They need a rude awakening. Being racist is not cool. I plan to expose them to all my extended family. Maybe instead of worrying about how I or Aunt Alana are, quote, muddying the family name, they should be worrying about how they're muddying the family name. Update number 4. Hey guys, it's Dahlia again. It's been 2 weeks since my father told me that our family's gaslighting him and mom. I've decided that I was going to expose my family's blatant racism to everyone. My extended family was not fully aware of the troubles in our family, as they always invited Alana to their events as well. I'm sure my family gave them excuses about why they did not invite Alana when they had events, but I'm not aware of them. It was my parents' anniversary, and I threw them a lavish party with my aunt's inheritance to annoy my close family even more. I got a huge venue that was very expensive, and even the caterers were the most renowned around the town. Everything was very expensive, but most importantly, I invited everyone. My Uncle Carl was here as well, and he wasn't the only person of color there either. People had evolved and no longer cared about my white family lineage anymore like my family did. I knew most of my extended family would be horrified to see my family's true colors, so I went on the stage to give a speech. I appreciated my parents and showed my love for them. Then I claimed that my Aunt Alana would have been one to throw this party if she were alive. She would have been so happy, but then I claimed that she would have been even happier if her racist family, who disowned her for marrying a black man, wasn't here. That's when I got everybody's undivided attention. I announced out loud that Alana was shunned from her family for loving the man that she loved, and only in death was she cherished by her family because the money she left behind. My uncle's face turned redder than a tomato. I claimed that she would have been happy for my parents who always supported her, but she would have been happier if her brothers weren't greedy racist, hounding her niece for the money that I deserve and they don't, after treating her the way that they did. That's when a cousin of mine who was married to a Latino woman came forward and asked me what my family had done to her. So I told them everything about how they had disowned her. Then after her death, they had asked me to divide the inheritance with their kids and called her all sorts of slurs in the same breath as asking me for money. I exposed their racist for everybody to see. My family, well, they were pretty horrified, humiliated. They immediately rushed out of the venue as I had a grin on my face. I announced that this party my aunt would have liked to give my father. Well, the response to my speech was mostly positive, I'd say. My close family, of course, hates me now, but everyone else was shocked to find out about how Alana was so mistreated. Mainly, I was scared of how my parents would react, but they conceded that I was right. They no longer wished to live according to their racist family rules. Uncle Carl told me that my aunt would have been proud of me, and that's when the crying began. I just feel so much better now that I have this off of my chest. I feel like Aunt Alana would have loved to humiliate her family like this if she was alive. She actually lived for the drama. I'm sure that she would have found even more dramatic ways to do it. Gosh, I miss her. Update number 5. Hello everyone, it's Dahlia again. For one last update. It's been 6 months since my last update, so I don't know. I thought I would update you guys about where everything's at. My extended family, for the bigger part, has completely shunned my uncles and their family for their racist behavior. Nobody likes them or even invites them to anything. A niece of mine got married a few days ago, and they only invited my father and his family to the wedding. They didn't even send invites to my uncles. They did, however, invite Uncle Carl. Many people apologized to him for not noticing my family's blatant racism. Carl was nice enough to tell them that he was happy that they knew about them now, and that was enough. I don't exactly know how my uncles and their family are doing, as I or my parents have not been in contact with them. And honestly, I don't care how they're doing. Uncle Carl's also doing better now that he's gotten time to mourn the loss of his wife. He is getting out of the house more and not just doing work from home anymore. I'm glad that he's feeling more and more like himself with every passing day. My dad has been keeping tabs on him too, and they go play golf every weekend, and I'm also doing well. Taking over a company is harder than I once thought. I did run it alone when my aunt was sick, but now that she isn't even here to give me advice, I realize how much I depended on her even though I thought that I did not. I've used a lot of the inheritance money to expand the company even more. I only wish to make my aunt proud, and I think I'm taking the steps in the right direction. Anyways, guys, I do want to thank you for listening to my rant. I just needed to let it off my chest, even more than you probably know. Thank you.
This is one of those stories where karma strikes a toxic family, and I'm just happy that OP, Dahlia, she was able to withhold herself from the family and she did not give in an inch, even when she was being pressured to. Also, it's good that Uncle Carl is finally coming out of the house and just trying to become his normal self once again after the love of his life passed away. I want to know your thoughts, guys. Maybe you've been in a position where your family's cut you off. Let me know about it in the comment section down below if you want to share your experience. Today's story was very interesting, guys. My name's Mr. Reddito. I narrate stories every single day and animate them as well, so if you guys do enjoy these sort of stories, Subscribe to the channel, it does help support the channel, and that way you never miss an upcoming story. Have a great day, guys. I'll see you tomorrow, and of course remember, it's cool to be kind. See ya.